All right, well, good evening, everybody. It's great to see a packed house. As you know, we've got a big responsibility coming up here in about a year. I think we're going to have a lot of these events coming up, and I want to keep seeing packed houses here in Lynn County. We need to see more candidates here, and it's just awesome to see all the energy, and 2024 is going to be our year. So no one came here to see me tonight. We came here to see presidential candidate Nikki Haley.
Do I take this one? Hello, how is everybody? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Oh, good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Well, it's great to be here. Sorry I was a little delayed coming out. I was chatting back there, so I apologize. But what a great full room. I love this. It's good to see everybody. I want to first thank the Mullman family and Legacy Manufacturing for allowing us to do this. Please help me thank them. We can never forget that small businesses are the heartbeat of the economy. And so anytime we can praise them, we want to be able to do that. You know, I want to start off, first of all, it's great to be in Marion. I have to tell you that someone said to me earlier today, you know, it's good. You're here at an unseasonably warm time. And my South Carolina skin was like, what? It is freezing here. It is freezing. But I appreciate it. It's so beautiful, and it is good to be here, but I clearly don't have a heavy enough coat. Having said that, I want to tell you a little bit about myself and then and why I'm doing what I'm doing. So first of all, I was born and raised in a small rural town in South Carolina. 2,500 people, 2 stoplights. You couldn't think about doing something wrong without somebody already telling your mom. But it was a great place to grow up. We were the only Indian family in that small rural town. We weren't white enough to be white. We weren't black enough to be black. And I remember when I would get teased on the playground and I would come home, my mom would say, your job is not to show them how you're different. Your job is to show them how you're similar. And that town came to accept us. They didn't know originally who we were, what we were, or why we were there. But my parents knew. My parents knew exactly why we were there. And there wasn't a day they didn't tell my brothers, my sister, and me that even on our worst day, we are blessed to live in America. My mom started a business out of the living room of our home 30 plus years later. It was a very successful company. I started doing the books for them when I was 13. I didn't know that wasn't normal until I got to college. Now I tell them that I know that was child labor. But when you go through a situation like that, and I remember having to figure out what we were going to pay and when we were going to pay it, the small business mentality teaches you so much because when times are hard, you stretch that dollar. You get creative. You figure out how to make it last. And when times are good, you don't celebrate because you know the bad times are going to happen again. I went on to Clemson, go Tigers, and graduated with a degree in accounting. Met my husband my first weekend at Clemson there. We've dated for 7 years. We've been married for 26. We have 2 children. And I went and worked for corporate America for a while, and then I came back home to the family business. And one day I was telling my mom how hard it was to make $1 and how easy it was for government to take it. And my mom said, quit complaining about it, do something about it. I did not know you weren't supposed to run against a 30-year incumbent in a primary, but ignorance is bliss. And once we realized he was related to half the district, the only option was to win. So my husband got in the driver's seat, I got in the passenger seat, we put our 2 little ones in the back seat, and we started knocking on doors. And what I told them at the time was this was no disrespect to the incumbent, but I thought we had way too many lawyers at the State House, and they needed a really good accountant. The people of that district took a chance on me and elected me, and I got to work. After a few years, something really started to smell strange. In South Carolina, of all legislation passed, it was typically done on a voice vote. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. But one day, there was a bill that was read across the desk that would give legislators a pay raise. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Yet to this day, you can't find one legislator that said they voted themselves a pay raise. This was a Republican House, a Republican Senate, and a Republican governor. And I got upset, and I went to the Speaker of the House, and I said, this is why the people don't trust us. And I filed a bill that said anything important enough to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate is important enough for the voters to know how their legislator voted. And the Speaker said, put the bill away. We don't need to have it. We will decide what the public needs to see and what they don't. And I remember going home to my husband and saying, if I can't even get legislative votes on the record, what am I doing here? And he said, then fight. So I went around the state of South Carolina and I said, did you know of all the bills passed in the House, only 8% were on the record? Did you know of all the bills passed in the Senate, only 1% was on the record? So if you didn't know how your House member voted 92% of the time, if you didn't know how your senator voted 99% of the time, how did you know who to vote for when you went to the polls? And the people of South Carolina were shocked. To put it into perspective, my first year in office, I was chairman of the freshman class. My second year, I was majority whip. My third year, I was on a powerful business committee. My fourth year, I was subcommittee chair of banking. The year that I wouldn't put the bill away, they stripped me of everything. I could take the well and speak, and no one would listen. I could sponsor a bill, and no one would co-sponsor it. So I ran for governor. And I am proud to say that one of the first bills we signed into law is now in South Carolina. Anything important enough to be debated on the floor of the House or the Senate requires a legislative vote on the record, and we took it a step further. We did it on every section of the budget. And when I went to go sign that bill, as you saw, I love music, as you heard it earlier. I blared music in the State House when we signed that bill, and it was to Pat Benatar's Hit Me With Your Best Shot. So then when I became governor, I took on a state that was double-digit unemployment. All of the jobs had been in the textile industry, and when the textiles went overseas, so did the jobs that went with it. So with that double-digit unemployment, we had a state that was down on itself. We were the butt of the jokes, and South Carolinians felt that way. And so we got to work. And when we got to work, by the time I left being governor, we were building planes with Boeing. We were building more BMWs than any place in the world. We had recruited Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, 5 international tire companies, and they were referring to us as the beast of the Southeast, which I love. And then from that point, President Trump asked me if I would go be the ambassador to the United Nations, in which my response was, I don't even know what the United Nations does. I just know everybody hates it. But was honored to serve the country I love. And, you know, when you go to the United Nations, it's not for the faint at heart. Every day you go in, you feel like you're putting on body armor because you know you're going to have a fight. You just don't know which country you're going to fight that day. But what we tried to do was make sure I purposely didn't study the do's and don'ts of the UN. I wanted to go in with fresh eyes. I wanted to be able to break it. I wanted to be able to really make sure that I could ask for forgiveness if I needed to. But what I made sure I did was we told them exactly what America was for and what America was against. I didn't care if they didn't like me, but I wanted them to respect America. And so we passed the largest sanctions on any country in a generation against North Korea. We got out of the Iran deal. And then, as you all know, we moved the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. And we were vilified for that. And I made the comment that America has always put our embassy in the capital of every country. Jerusalem is the capital. And so we were acknowledging a truth. But when I left that vote, I came back to the office after they had condemned us. And I told my staff, I said, I want you to put together a book. And in that book, I want you to list all 193 countries. I want the second column to be the percentage of times they voted with America and against America. And then I want that third column to be how much foreign aid we give them. I got that book and I took it to President Trump. He lost his mind. He totally lost his mind. He's flipping through pages, yelling out countries. And I said, look, I'm not saying we give foreign aid based on the percentage of times they vote with us or against us. But I'm saying that should be one of the things. We have to stop trying to buy friends. Quit giving money to countries that say death to America. That's never going to work. We were giving $1 billion in military aid to Pakistan. They were turning around and harboring terrorists trying to kill our soldiers. We stopped giving that $1 billion to Pakistan. America needs to think about being smart, not just trying to go have everybody like us. That's not our goal. But how do you be smart? How do you make sure we're making the most of our money so that it works for us? So after I left the United Nations, as we were looking at our country, I don't need to tell you how many of you are happy with where things are right now. I mean, you look at the country, and the first thing I'll say is look at our economy. We're $31 trillion in debt. We're actually having to borrow money just to make our interest payments. 1 in 6 Americans can't pay their utility bill. 60% of Americans are in credit card debt. 60% of small business owners could not make rent in October. And half of Americans are saying they make less money this year than they did last year. Something's got to give. You've got Republicans and Democrats have brought earmarks back in. $12 million on a baseball stadium in New York. $15 million for New Jersey to get the World Cup. $6.5 million for golf courses in Colorado. $2 million for a hip-hop museum in New York. That's our money. That's our money. And now you've got families who can't afford groceries. And you're going to spend our money like that? Then you go and you look at our education system. Did you know pre-COVID, 70% of 8th graders in our country were not proficient in reading? 70%. 66% of 8th graders were not proficient in math. Then you go and you add 2 years of lockdowns, and what have you done to our kids? How they're so far behind, we don't know if we can catch them back up. Then you go and you look at the security situation. There's crime in every city because no one will sit there and deal with the fact that we have to actually enforce our laws. You've got law enforcement, God bless them, don't feel like anybody's got their backs. You've got an open border where we've had more people come across that border than Philadelphia and Chicago combined. And we've had 100 terrorists come across that we know of. Think about that. And enough fentanyl to cross that border that would kill every single American? Every state in America has become a border state. Then you look at our foreign policy. Did you ever think in our lifetime that we would have little ones like this look up at the sky and see a Chinese spy balloon looking back at them? It's a national embarrassment. The idea that we would have that happen, the idea that we're dealing with a war. The idea that we're all of a sudden having to focus on things foreign policy-wise that we didn't before. And do you know why? It all started with that debacle in Afghanistan. I'm the wife of a combat veteran. He deployed to Afghanistan. Actually, he deployed while I was governor. So he left me as a single mom governor. And yes, we're still married. The idea that we would leave Bagram Air Force Base in the middle of the night without telling our allies who stood shoulder to shoulder with us for decades because we asked them to be there. Think about what that told our friends. More importantly, think about what that told our enemies. Then you got Biden falling all over himself to get back into the Iran deal. These are terrorists that say death to America, death to Israel every day. And then you've got China, and they have the nerve to yell at us for shooting down the balloon, and we just take it. So Blinken says, okay, I'm not going to meet with you in Beijing. But yet he meets with them this week in Munich? And can we first acknowledge the fact that, yes, Biden's over in Poland, but shouldn't he be with those people in Ohio? You have to always, during any time of crisis, go to your people immediately. I had that in South Carolina. We had a hurricane. We had a 1,000-year flood. We had a school shooting. We had a church shooting. You drop everything and go be with your people when something happens. And he's not there. So you look at all of those situations, and then the worst one of all the threats, there is this national loathing that has taken over our country, where people are saying America's bad or it's rotten or it's racist. I was the first minority female governor in the country. I am telling you, America is not a racist country. It's a blessed country. We need our children to know that. We need our children to be proud. So this is what I'll tell you. I'm going to tell you what my mom always said. We're not going to complain about it. We're going to do something about it. America has spent enough time complaining about how bad things are. They've spent enough time whining about it. They've spent enough time saying things are not the way they should be. So what are we going to do? Well, let's talk about the solutions. When it comes to our economy, if you've got $31 trillion in debt, the first thing you have to understand is Congress is on a spending binge, and they need to go on a diet. They have got to stop spending the way they're spending. No more earmarks, period. And then we also have to look at the fact that 15% of our federal budget is interest. We'll quit borrowing. When I was governor, we had to have a balanced budget. You have to balance your budgets at home. Our small businesses have to balance their budget. Why do we give Congress a pass? We don't need to do that. We need to stop the spending. When you look at inflation, the best way to deal with inflation is when we start to build things in America again. And that way we're not worried about things coming in from overseas. Let's open up the energy sector so that we have more energy than we know what to do with. We should be exporting as much liquefied natural gas as we can. That's how you deal with the economy. When it comes to schools, you look at the education situation in our schools, and you do what I did in South Carolina. I told the people of South Carolina, if a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we passed legislation, and any child that couldn't read by 3rd grade, they were held back. We did remediation with their parents. We put them in summer programs, and we made sure we were going to give those kids a good start and make sure they could read. We need to do that across this country. We need to stop with all the chaotic stuff, the idea that you have critical race theory, and if you've got a little girl, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad, and if she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and always going to be a victim. That's abusive. And then all of this gender stuff, everybody was up in arms because Florida passed a bill that said you can't talk about gender before the 3rd grade. That doesn't even go far enough. When I was growing up, You didn't have sex ed until 7th grade, and your parents had to sign a permission slip, and my dad wouldn't sign it, so I was the uncool kid in the classroom next door. Though parents are the ones that should be teaching their kids about anything to do with gender, lifestyle, and everything else. All our kids need to be learning: math, science, reading, history. We don't need to be teaching them about different genders. And the way you fix that is you let parents decide where their kids should go to school. We need to have school choice across this country. Then when it comes to securing the borders, first of all, we need to make sure that we know exactly who's coming in the border, but we are a country of laws. The second you stop being a country of laws, you give up everything this country was founded on. We need to seal off the border. We need to go back to the Remain in Mexico policy. And when I'm president, we're going to do what I did in South Carolina. We passed an Arizona-style E-Verify program that said that no small business anywhere in the state could hire anyone that was not in the state legally. We do not need to be hiring illegals. That's the only way you're going to get them out, is when they can't get a job. We need to focus on crime in our streets. Our law enforcement are trying to do a good job. We need to start having their backs. We need to make sure everything's transparent, and they really need a raise. That's how we're going to get things back. And when we go and let law enforcement know that we have their backs, and we let criminals know that we have their number, you will start to see this come into play. DAs need to start prosecuting crimes that we know that they have. Then when it comes to, a lot of people care about our elections, right? We need to do what we did in South Carolina. We passed voter ID back in 2012, and we've got more people voting than ever before. That's how you make sure you have the protection of your integrity in your election system. And then when it comes to foreign policy, we need to make sure that countries know what we expect of them, not the other way around. China right now wants to be a surveillance state. China, Russia, and their junior partner, Iran, look at us and they see us as the great sinners. What we need to do is build up our military. A strong military doesn't start wars. A strong military prevents wars. When we do that, they will know that we mean business. And then we really need to go back and say, how are we going to heal our country? Think back to when you were growing up, except for these little ones. Remember how simple life was? Do you remember how you could ride your bike down the street? Remember how it was family, church, community? Remember there wasn't chaos? You didn't hold your breath turning on the news? We can have that again. But the only way we get that is if we go back and understand socialism is not the route we want to take. And this defeatism has to stop. When we start loving our country again, we will show the world what it means to be an American. We will once again start to feel that pride that we had again. Our children and our grandchildren will know what that love means. They deserve it. You deserve it. You don't deserve to be living like this right now. None of you. But we have to do something about it. And that means no more complaining. That means we're all going to be a part of the solution. That means we get to work and we say we're done. We're going to leave the past behind us, and we're going to start looking forward and saying it's time to get to work for America. Because when you focus on standing strong for America, when you focus on being proud of America, that's when things work. But we don't do it with faint hearts. And we don't do it with watered-down compromises. We do it by boldly proclaiming our purpose of America, the pride, the love, the strength that goes with it. You know, when I was at the United Nations, I was standing on the Simon Bolivar Bridge in South America between Venezuela and Colombia. and I watched thousands of people walk in the hot sun for hours carrying their babies to get the one meal they might get that day. They were currently at that time, they were killing zoo animals for food. They were fleeing socialism and desperate for freedom. We went to a Catholic church, and all of a sudden they all just swarmed me. They all started coming around me, and I wondered why. And then it hit me. They didn't care who I was. They cared where I was from. In me, they saw America. And in America, they saw hope. That's who we are. That's what we can be again. So what you're going to hear right now is something I've heard a while. When I first ran against that legislator, the longest-serving legislator in South Carolina, they laughed at me. And then I asked them to take a chance and told them, if you take a chance on me, I will prove to you that you made the right decision. And together, we won. When I ran for governor, I ran against a lieutenant governor, an attorney general, a congressman, and a state senator. They all had more money than I did. And I was Nikki who? But I went around that state and I said, if you go tell 10 people, we can change the face of South Carolina. We can change our future on where we're going. And they all joined with me, and we won. When I went to the United Nations, they all said I didn't have any experience. And then I got to work. And we took the kick me sign off of US's back, and we were respected again. What I'm going to say to you, if you're tired of losing, if you're tired of being frustrated, if you're tired of the chaos, if you're tired of the division, if you're tired of everything that's wrong, join with me. Because we can do this. I have faith. Sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to know where up is. We're there. So when you leave, if you like what I had to say, go tell 10 people. Tell 10 people that you heard me, you liked what I had to say, and tell them to go to NikkiHaley.com. And if you do this, what I can promise you is our best days are in front of it. And I will commit my life to making sure that's right. Thank you very, very much. God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I'm not going to have you come out here and just listen to me. So now we'll open it up for any questions that you may have. I will tell you there's nothing I won't answer. You may not like my answer, but there's nothing I won't answer. So we will start with the first question. We will start with you, ma'am, and then we will come to you, sir.
Hi, thank you for coming to Iowa.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Christine Carpenter I'm from Cedar Falls. I'm now 15 minutes away. I also am an all-volunteer Iowa field coordinator for the National Breast Cancer Coalition, and I am a member of I'm the advocacy chair for the Cedar Valley Cancer Committee's Beyond Pink team. And breast cancer remains an epidemic in the U.S. and the world. There are more than 4 million women and thousands of men living with breast cancer in the United States. In 2023, approximately 353,510 new cases of breast cancer will be diagnosed. In the United States alone, it's estimated that 43,170 women and 530 men will die this year. So the National Breast Cancer Coalition has a public policy platform that we're asking the presidential candidates to sign. It's to saying that you would be supportive of appropriating sufficient funds annually to support meaningful breast cancer research with, total transparency, and appropriate $150 million for fiscal years 24 and 25 for the Department of Defense peer-reviewed breast cancer research program. Also, you need care if you've got breast cancer, and so we would like to guarantee that all individuals have access to patient-centered, evidence-based, high-quality, and affordable health care. And finally, we want to make sure that we have trained, educated patient advocates who have a constituency to have us, and personally affected by the disease, to have a seat at all decision-making tables. Would you help me do God's work by supporting this platform and signing it?
Well, you are doing God's work by spreading the word. What I will tell you is we will look at it, because I don't want to say something without having read it. But I'm going to go a step further, because we've got a serious health care problem in general, whether it's breast cancer or anything else. And the one thing that's missing in health care, I will tell you, I take care of my parents. They live with us. They're 86 and 89. And to see how many seniors are having to choose between paying for their medicine and paying for their food is a shame. And so we've got to look at health care, and we need to completely open it up and make it transparent. I mean the hospitals, the insurance companies, the pharmaceutical companies, the doctors' offices. When we go to get our oil changed, what do? They come out and they give us an estimate, and we make the decision on what we want. Why is it that we're forced to pay for a Tylenol we don't want in the hospital? Why is it that we have to continually wonder how much it's going to cost when we're laying in a hospital bed? Why is it that the insurance companies negotiate with the hospital and we're left out of the room? All of that has to change. We have to make all of that transparent. When we do that, we will have more money for research. When we do that, we can actually focus on saving lives and not saving profits in the healthcare industry. And I will tell you, when we do that, you put patients back in charge. Do you know right now, those doctors in hospitals, they don't give you those 10 tests because you need them. They give it because of the 90% chance they're going to get sued. If you have strong tort reform, like we passed in South Carolina, and you have that around the country, you don't have all that wasted cost and wasted effort. But that'll only happen when we open it up and we make it transparent again, because healthcare has to be dealt with. We're too great of a country not to make sure that everybody's getting the best healthcare at the most affordable prices in a way that they get to control. Next question. Thank you. The gentleman in the Iowa State hat, I told him he would be next.
Go Iowa State. Yes, welcome to Iowa.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
And I just got a few things I'd like to say. When you take the Oval Office in January 2025, I would like to see you pick as your vice president, Kristi Noem, out of South Dakota. I really like her a lot. I mean, she's, I don't know how to say it, but she's hot. Yeah. Well, Nikki, you're not too bad yourself. But, I don't want to.
You are digressing really fast. I'm just saying.
But I don't want no one to thank me in this room because I enlisted. I'm a Vietnam veteran.
Oh, God bless you.
And these two men right here in front of me are both veterans.
God bless you all.
I know.
God bless you all.
But you probably already know this, but less than 2% of us have been in the military. And I commend your husband for being in the military. And last thing I want to say is I'm looking forward to seeing you on the debate stage. You're going to tear them up. You got our vote.
Thank you. God bless you. I appreciate that. So a couple of things just to answer it. First of all, on Inauguration Day, that is January 20th, 2025. That is my birthday. Secondly, I can't promise you about the vice presidential pick, but I'll keep in mind what you said. And thirdly, I'll tell you, I can't wait to get on the debate stage. We'll have a good time with that. Next question.
We had a question here, ma'am.
Yes.
Nikki, I'm also a resident of South Carolina. We have a plant in Greenville, South Carolina.
Nice. Thank you for investing
And,
there.
and my question is this. If the U.S. government will not buy American, why should anyone else buy American? The USPS vehicle is being built in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and about $8 million worth of molds to make the plastic parts are being sourced in Canada and China.
This has to be patriotic. Do you remember after 9/11, like what a high we were on? We wanted everything American. We wanted to show the entire world what that meant. That's where we have to go back to again. And the way you do it is you start building things in America, and you start using Americans to build those things, and then you celebrate it. You celebrate it. When I was governor of South Carolina, I happened to go to because we were trying to get jobs, I saw that Walmart was doing a Made in America summit. They were working on trying to bring manufacturers to come to America to build things. And so I called them and I said, I want to be a part of that. And they said, what do you mean? And I said, I want to build things in America, and I don't want to go take from another state. I want to bring it to South Carolina. So they let me go talk to their conference. And we ended up in South Carolina building the first American-made televisions, the first American-made bicycles, and we celebrated it. And we did it in areas, and we said, look, we're building in America. That's where we have to go back to. And God bless you for doing it, because you really are. You're the heartbeat of our economy, and that needs to be celebrated. Thank you.
Hi, Nikki. Welcome to Iowa.
Thank you.
Our Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds signed a flat tax law in Iowa, and I was wondering what your policy would be for tax reform for the government.
It's actually pretty simple. Americans need to pay less taxes and get more for their money. That's the number one thing. First of all, I think you have the best governor in the country, hands down. But it's because she understands, I would rather Americans have more money in their pockets than in government. The problem we have right now is too much trust has been put in government and not enough trust has been put in the American people. And I will tell you, government breaks more than it fixes every day. So the constant thing I tried to do was make government smaller, make it less a part of our lives. And when you have money, everybody wins. So what I promise is there's not anything I won't do to make sure that you have money in your pocket. And whatever tax reform that is, which we will always fight to do, I will make sure that it lowers your taxes and it never raises your taxes. Thank you.
All right, ma'am, we have time for one more question.
I'm from Dubuque, and you were there last summer, and I liked you so well I'm here today.
God bless you. I love that. Thank you very much.
When you become president, what will be your policy for the Middle East and bringing peace between Israelis and Palestinians?
You know, the Middle East situation, if you look at what's happened, and really you had, when I went into the UN, it was nothing but Israeli bashing every day. And all I saw was, I went into this one session on the Middle East thinking we were actually going to talk about the Middle East. And every country went around the room, and it was bashing Israel, one country at a time. And so I came out and I said, if Israel has done something wrong, I'll be the first one to say, let's hold them accountable. But this is ridiculous. They are the bright spot in a tough neighborhood. They're a democracy. They're our ally. We need to make sure we take care of them. Over time, what do we see happen in the last administration? It was historic. The Abraham Accords was historic. Because what happened was, all of a sudden, the Arab countries, it wasn't that Israel needed them. The Arab countries needed Israel. They saw the innovation. They saw the technology. They saw the military. They saw everything and they wanted it. And we have to make sure we do that back. What bothers me is what Biden did. The idea that he would go and criticize the head of Saudi Arabia, who's younger than every leader in this world and is going to outlast every leader in this world, he turned around and criticized him. And then he's going to go hold hat in hand asking him for his oil. That's the strength we're talking about. When you talk to these Arab countries, you've got to talk to them in a way that we make progress, not take steps back. You know, why are we now getting dirty oil from Venezuela? So a lot has to be done with the Middle East. I think we're going to get there. I don't think we're going to get there with Biden because he's offended them so much. The Emiratis don't feel appreciated for signing the Abraham Accords. The Saudis don't want to do it because of Biden. But that is one way we can truly bring peace back, is to go finish what was started and make sure we get that done. Thank you. How many, Andrew, where are you?
I'm over here. We have time for one more question. Can we go back
Get
there?
Bob.
Okay.
Bob, I like your shirt.
If the chance later maybe to get you to sign a picture we took together.
I would love
Okay.
to sign a picture.
I'm wondering if you would consider President Trump as your running mate or vice versa.
All right, Bob, think about that for a second. How well do you think it would go over if I called President Trump and said, "You want to be my VP?" Look, let me tell you, President Trump is my friend. I called him before I did this. We had a good conversation. He was the right president at the right time. He broke the things that needed to be broken, and he worked to fix them. The reason I'm running is we got to move forward. We got to move forward. We can't keep dealing with these issues in the past. And I think that we need a young generation of leaders. I mean, look at Washington, D.C. You will see me say all day long, we have got to have term limits in Congress. We've got to have them. And yes, we have to have mental competency tests for everyone over the age of 75. That's not personal. We've got seniors who can do many things. The reason why I'm saying that we need that is you should have transparency. Government's supposed to work for the people, not the other way around. Bernie Sanders lost his mind because I asked for that. He's exactly the reason we need it. He's exactly the reason we need it. Whoopi Goldberg lost her mind over it. And you know what she was doing? She was glorifying Dianne Feinstein and Maxine Waters. They're exactly the reason we need it. Why wouldn't you? Anyone that says something is wrong with mental competency tests tells you everything you need to know. It's about accountability. It's about doing things right. And if somebody passes it, great. They can serve. But I think that we've got to bring this new generation in. We've got too many problems to sit there and go with the stale status quo we have had for too long. Let's start to right the ship. Y'all have been very gracious. Go to NikkiHaley.com. Go tell 10 people. God bless you.